Hello, friends. Today we will have a look at the next Devi. So the next one is Goddess Katyayani or Veeralakshmi. This phase of the Devi will be having swords again and sitting on a lion in the Shakti side, being ferocious and so on. Again, this is a Ugra phase of Lakshmi or Shakti. So if you look at the Puranas, what they say is Katyayani was created from Shiva, Brahma, and Vishnu. So all the gods give her weapons so that she can fight against all the demons. She traveled towards the Vindhya mountains and killed Mahishasura. So the aspect which we have to keep in mind is, remember the blastocyst, the fertilized egg cell, that after fertilization, it undergoes cell division, and then it travels all the way from the ampulla of the fallopian tube towards the uterus. Yeah, it's a long journey, very long journey. And finally, it implants into the endometrium lining of the uterus. Okay? So, Goddess Katyayani, if you read the description in the Puranas, they do not give anything specific except for one Shiva Duti, which we will see next. One particular interesting story about Katyayani. Okay. And here, Shiva Duti, that refers to, in the story, in the Puranas, that means Durga sends Shiva as a messenger before killing the demons. Okay. She tells Shiva, go and tell that I'm going to kill them. Either they surrender or I'm going to kill them. And that's why Durga is called Shiva Duti, because she sent Shiva as a messenger. So what really happens is, I want to explain this picture here. The blastocyst travels a long way, and before it embeds into the lining, these are the steps which happens. As you can see, the title of this picture, it's all taken from the internet. You can see the reference below. Implantation window and embryo maternal crosstalk. So this is a communication, a dialogue happening between the embryo and the endometrium lining or the mother. Okay? This is not fully understood yet. One day we will understand. But from the Puranas, it clearly says she sent Shiva as the messenger. So that means, first, let's have a look. The first phase is free-floating blastocyst. It is coming, the blastocyst is coming towards the uterus. Blastocyst hatching. We will look into what hatching is in the next slide. And then what happens is the blastocyst turns, or it orients. The blastocyst has got two parts. One is the outer layer, outer layer of cells, which we call as Shakti, and the inner cell mass. Now it has got the inner cell mass, which is a condensed form of all the essence, which is going to become a baby. Okay, so the inner cell mass, which is here, is the part of the baby. Okay, that is going to become the baby, and that is referred to as Shiva. That portion is turned towards the endometrium lining first. This is what is happening. And then in embryology, they call it as adhesion. The first one is opposition, turning, and adhesion, coming very close to the endometrium lining. And then it penetrates. It's not an easy thing. Just imagine your skin, and if something, a ball, has to go inside the cell, inside the skin, It's not an easy process. It has to erode the cells here, erode the skin, and then get it. Even in the scientific terms, they call it as invasion. Okay? And then it goes into the lining. So here, the communication between the blastocyst and the endometrium lining, or the mother, it is not fully understood yet. Research is still ongoing, but the dialogue is initiated by the inner cell mass. Okay, it is not by the embryoblast, but the inner cell mass, according to the Puranas. As I said, there is a long way. It still has to be established. The facts have to be established, but this is my understanding of the whole thing. Now, let's look at what is hatching. Before we go into hatching, another important point is about the Chausath Yogini temples. In the north or in North India, we find Yogini temples, which are circular in shape, and they have 64 yoginis inside these temples. Okay? 64 yoginis. And in the middle, they can have either Bhairava or Shiva. Bhairava would be the right one because it's a form of Shiva who is supposed to represent time. Okay? Basically, what these temples are nothing but the blastocyst. So as you can see in the yellow pictures, there's two cells. The single cell becomes 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. And the last phase in blastocyst is the 64-celled blastocyst. Okay? And just above this, you can see this is the way how it looks. The inner cell mass, or the baby part, is aligned on one side, and there is huge space. And here I have given the structure or the architecture of the Yogini temples. It is the way how they are constructed, and the temple is here. Okay, in some temples they keep in some Yogini temples they keep the main Bhairava or Shiva in the middle. Okay, so what's the significance is these temples, they contain 64 yoginis, but they all encompass all the different forms of Durga. So I'll explain that properly. From one cell became 2, 2 became 4, 4 became 8. Okay, you see the logic. Now, this is the reason in the Yogini temples you will have Adi Shakti, first 1, and also its derivatives. Let's say 1 becomes 2, and then its derivatives, and it goes on. Okay, so up to 64 have been put together in a temple form, or let's say, or made to sit around. This is nothing but a fertilized egg cell, which has got 64 cells. Okay, and if we do a proper research, we will be able to find out, even scientifically, we can even help the scientific community by identifying what are the different yoginis and what are their, what is their nature, what is their task. We need to have the text. If we have the text, we can derive those information as well. So now we will come to the next interesting part, which is Kalaratri, Kaushiki, Kali, or Vijayalakshmi, or Kali in simple terms. Okay? Kali is a fierce form of Durga who appeared from the forehead of Durga. Okay? It's again, as I said, how did they appear? It's all from one cell, 1 became 2, 2, 4, 4 became 8, and so on. And this form appeared from Durga. And then she went on to kill the demons. Now, let's see. The implantation process. This is important to understand. After fertilization, the egg cell undergoes, let's say, division, and it has to make a huge or long journey before it comes to the uterus. And here, that's what is mentioned as one, transport. Then, orientation, the inner cell mass is oriented towards the endometrial lining. Okay, it changes its direction. We already spoke about that. It's called as Shivaduti. Now, what happens is hatching. Hatching is a process through which the blastocyst, which is inside an outer layer, which is called a zona pellucida, comes out of that zona pellucida. Okay, this happens just before implantation. Okay, that is called hatching. And then the cell comes in close contact with the endometrium lining and then gets in. Okay, so I have made it here, and if you look at the next step, it is called literally invasion. Okay, it is just attacking the outer endometrium lining. It erodes and then gets in. So we will see what hatching means next. So, how was Kali formed? Okay, if you look at the Puranas, they say Parvati did the penance, and from the skin which she put away, Kaushiki was born. Okay, so it is, let's say, the outer layer was removed and Kali was born. Now we will first see the process through which the outer layers is removed. And this is what I mentioned as hatching. This is the morula. Okay. Now the cells divide and they come out of the zona pellucida. And one point worth noting is, if you look at the shape of the blastocyst, it is very similar to how a person is affected by smallpox. Okay, it is very similar, the shape. And this is what the reason why in Kerala, if you look at the story of Kali in Kerala, they say the wife of the demon cursed Kali so that she will have smallpox. Okay? It is there in the Puranas. So this is the reason. Now, let's go on. Now, the blastocyst is in close contact with the endometrium lining. It erodes, yeah, and then it gets implanted into the endometrium lining. Now, as I said earlier, this is the outer layer, and we are calling that as Shakti, and the inner cell mass is this bit, which is going to become the baby. And this inner cell mass is the core, the essence, which we said, Shivaduti and so on. And this inner cell mass comes in close contact with the endometrium lining, and the outer layer pushes the whole thing inside. This is the reason why we see portraits or we see pictures of Kali standing over Shiva. Okay, it is literally, it's not just standing, it is literally pushing someone into the ground. Okay, there are many Puranas. It is not only this story. If you look at Mahabali, yeah, in Onam, I think I made a video about that. Mahabali is the same thing, pushing someone inside, okay, into the ground so as to create something. So, same logic. Now, next important point is Rakta Bija. Rakta Bija, if you look at Chamundeshwari story or story of Durga in many Puranas, we see a character called Rakta Bija. The same character is also called as Andaka in Vishnu Purana, Siva Purana. Same characters. What is happening is, the story, first I'll narrate the story. Rakta Bija was an asura. He had a boon that whenever one drop of blood falls from his body onto the ground, another duplicate Rakta Bija would be created, would be born. Okay, so it is almost impossible to kill him. So what Kali did was, she stretched her tongue all over and she licked each drop of blood pouring out of Rakta Bija's body. And finally, Rakta Bija was killed. This is the story. So you look at this video. Hopefully that gives an idea.
Your endometrium has these blood vessels within it. And really what they are is actually just collections of blood that's slowly moving around. They are fed by blood vessels from the uterine arteries, but as they get bigger, become somewhat irregular, and they start to coalesce, they form these large pools of blood.
So what happens is, as the embryoblast penetrates or invades into the endometrial lining, it comes in close contact with the maternal blood vessels, okay, or uterine blood vessels, which is the blood vessels of the mother. Okay, so it erodes, literally erodes the blood vessels as well. And what happens is, some portion of the blastocyst comes in close contact with the blood vessels. Okay. Again, it's important to keep in mind that the blood from the mother will not mix with the blood of the child. Okay. So there is something called a chorionic villi, which is formed from the embryoblast. Or in other words, the cell, the ball of cell, which we saw earlier, creates something which is called chorionic villi, which will come in close contact with the blood cells, which has been eroded. Yeah? And through a process called diffusion, it sucks the blood. It does not come in contact, okay, with the blood. Well, it comes in contact with the blood, but it does not transfer the blood directly to the baby. Okay? Through a process called diffusion, it sucks the nutrients from the mother's blood. Okay, which you can see in that. You can listen to the description here in this video.
Now, once those digestive enzymes begin to break down the endometrium, the connective tissue, they also actually break down the vascular tissue. And that means those digestive enzymes released by the chorion eventually break down the maternal blood vessels found within the endometrium. And as soon as we rupture these blood vessels, the blood of the mother actually oozes out and leaks out into the endometrium, into the area surrounding these chorionic villi. And so we have the pooling of the mother's blood shown in a diagram as this light purple section. And what that allows is, it allows the exchange of nutrients and waste products and minerals and oxygen, carbon dioxide between the blood of that fetus and the blood of the mother.
So what happens is, from the blastocyst creates a structure called the chorionic villi, okay, which is in close contact with the blood, and through a process called diffusion, it takes the nutrients, it transports the nutrients from the mother's blood to the baby, right? So now we see how the chorionic villi looks like. First, if you look at the picture, right picture on the top, this is the structure of a chorionic villi, which is in the shape of a human tongue, okay? And you can see the pictures below. This is the villus tree. This is the chorionic villi, which is in contact with the material vein, okay? The blood, artery, and so on. So, as I explained before, these villi are responsible to transport nutrients from the maternal blood and as well as to send out the carbon dioxide from the baby's blood back to the mother's blood. So that's the reason why we see Kali being portrayed with long tongue protruding, or let's say hanging outside, as if she's literally sucking the blood. Right? So it's a complex process. The Kali, as such, as we see, is the form of the blastocyst, which was very silent until now. It was fierce. It had to come up, let's say, it had to face a lot of issues, but it had overcome. And now this process of invasion is literally fierce. Okay? And there is no mercy. It has to go into the lining, and it literally succeeds. I mean, it fights and gets in, okay, against the maternal, against the body structure of the mother. Okay, the mother has got, let's say, a thing. I mean, anything which is foreign to our body will be fought off by our immune system. Yeah? So the mother's body will fight naturally, and this fertilized egg will have to fight against that and gets implanted. That's the reason why we call Kali as being ferocious or fierce, and at the same time, she's a mother because she's trying to protect the child, okay, which is inside the cell. So in the next and the last phase of the video, we will see what Ayudha Puja and Saraswati Puja means, and that will be the last phase. Thank you.